Good morning. We did it. We are live. Welcome to the Electoral Area Services Committee meeting of Thursday, July the 18th, 2024. I would like to call this meeting to order and acknowledge that the Sunshine Coast Regional District is within the territories of the Shishal and Squamish nations. Thank you everybody for being here. We have an agenda before us. Would directors like to make any changes or amendments? Motion first. Director McMahon, do you have a motion for us?
I would like to move that we authorize Director Toth to participate in the Electoral Area Services Committee.
And that is seconded. All in favor? Perfect. That passes. Welcome, Director Toth. Thank you for being here. Okay, so now we have an agenda before us. Would directors like to make any changes to the agenda before we get started? I do not see any hands, so I'll look for a motion to adopt the agenda as presented. Director McMahon and Director Lee, perfect. All in favor? Great, we have an agenda. Okay, no presentations, no delegations. Look for a motion to receive all reports. And that's moved, seconded. All in favor? That's done. Perfect. So, going straight to reports. Item number 2, which is in Annex A, pages 3 to 20. We have the official community plan amendment number 640.6 and zoning bylaw amendment number 722.10, consideration of second reading. So we do have some recommendations, a few of them, including we were going to have to delegate a chair and alternate chair, so let's not forget to do that. Would Manager Jackson like to say something about this item?
Sure. Thank you, Chair, and good morning. Brief presentation just to go over this application, just to make sure that it's a large piece of property and want to make sure that it's clear what's happening on it. So the SCRD received an OCP and zoning bylaw amendment applications for a 0.3 non-ALR reserve portion of 1691 Jensen Road in Area F, West Howe Sound, which is the subject of this application. The applicant's ultimate proposal for the property is to subdivide into 2 parcels such that a new property line would follow the boundary between the ALR and the non-ALR portions to facilitate future residential development of 1 new lot on the portion outside of the ALR. Overall, to implement this proposal, a total of 4 planning applications are required, each with its own distinct approval process: OCP amendment, zoning bylaw amendment, subdivision, and development permits. The process of considering this proposal begins with the current applications to change the OCP land use designation from agriculture to residential, zoning from agriculture to residential 1, and subdivision district I, which is a minimum of 4 hectare parcel size, to C, which is a 0.2 hectare minimum parcel size. The land use and zoning changes are proposed only for the subject portion of the property outside of the ALR. On May 8th, 2024, the applicant held a public information meeting at Eric Cardinal Hall, and following first reading, the proposal was referred to Area F APC for comment. The PIM and APC comments are summarized in this report, and staff are recommending OCP Amendment 640.6 and Zoning Bylaw Amendment 722.6 proceed to second reading, and staff are here and happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Great summary. So I'll be looking for directors for motions or discussion. Director Stamford.
Thank you, Chair. I'll be happy to move the recommendations as presented on page 3, but I do want to make a couple of notes about items that have come through on the report, and to clarify that the community has had some comments about the impact of this particular subdivision, primarily around wider issues, the appropriateness of ALR land being moved into non-agricultural uses, and also the impact on the community, partially on the build itself, but more significantly for the large potential plans for the large agricultural area. That's not part of the report, but I do want to make sure that the community knows that we have heard these concerns. And as this process moves forward, I hope to see an opportunity where we can address some of those concerns as a separate community engagement process to address them. So thank you. So having that, I will move the recommendations on page 3, and we can further the discussion.
Can I get a seconder? And that is seconded by Director McMahon. Wonderful. So that is on the table. Director McMahon.
It is incompletely on the table because we need a date and a chair for the public hearing. I'm just wondering what staff had in mind as a possible date. Are we looking at this point at September for timing?
Go ahead, staff.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, to answer the question, we would be looking at the fall for a public hearing for this particular property at this point in time, recognizing the August break coming up. Thank you.
Thank
you
you.
very
I was going to volunteer to chair if nobody else is eager to do it. Director Stanford has already demonstrated how to do it.
Oh, Director Stanford, would you like to be alternate chair?
I'll be alternate chair, yes.
Okay. So, Director McMahon, yes? I see. Okay, not need a date right now. Okay, so we have the recommendations moved, seconded, and we have that Director McMahon be delegated as the chair and Director Stanford be delegated as the alternate chair. Any further discussions? Looks like everybody's pretty happy. So I'm going to call the question. All in favor? That passes. Perfect. One down. Moving on to item number 3, development permit DP 000310 for 1020 Keith Road. That is in Electoral Area E. Annex B, that is pages 21 to 35. I'll be voting all rural directors. Would planner, wait, I know the name, it's right here. Kobervitz would like to introduce this item.
Thank you, Chair. This item was previously considered by the Electoral Area Services Committee last month, at which time a recommendation was made that this application be referred to the Area E APC, which was done on July 18th. They did consider the application, ultimately made a positive recommendation. They did include some further thoughts on the utilization of drought-resistant plantings, native plants, and whatnot. Staff did review those comments, but interpreted those not to be in compliance with the guideline as it is right now, which really focuses on dense shrubbery and doesn't provide quite enough guidance to require the kind of thing that the APC was looking for. So for your consideration is the development permit for issuance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's like Groundhog Day today, all the items we've seen before. So just let's revisit before the break. Okay, Director McMahon.
Yes, I'd like to thank my APC for their thoughtful comments and their enormous expertise on native plantings, which I learned a whole lot about. If anybody wants to know more, boy, I know where to get the information. And I will be moving this. I just wanted to say, and I realize this is a little bit petty, but we have been scolded a number of times for wanting to support farmers and told that we cannot be seen to provide a benefit to a business. But staff were all over providing a benefit to Fortis to push this through in a hurry, and they are a private business. So I just feel like sometimes there is a double standard. Anyway, I'm happy to move the recommendations on page 21.
Okay, can I get a seconder? And that is seconded. Any further discussions or questions? I don't see any hands, so I will call the question. All in favor? And that passes. Thank you, staff. Moving on to item number 4, that is Annex C, pages 36 to 43, Agricultural Land Commission application ALR 00026 for 437 Huff Road in Electoral Area E again. Excellent. And are you staying with us? Okay. Would you like to introduce this item as well?
Thank you, Chair. I'll be introducing this item, although Planner Nick Copes is online and available for questions. This application is a farm soil use application. The applicants are seeking to level out an area of land and introduce soil to facilitate their proposed agricultural activity. These applications are referred to us by the ALC to ensure that they comply with SCRD regulations and policies around agriculture. Staff reviewed this application and do think in the broad context that this conforms to the agricultural policies that we have, although we did include some recommendations for the ALC to consider local impacts on the ditch to the north, stormwater management related to the fill, as well as ensuring that an agrologist be involved to vet the need and the quality of the fill being introduced on the site. But overall, staff support the application being referred back to the ALC for consideration. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very much appreciate these quick summaries before the items. I see Director McMahon's hand is up.
Thank you, and I appreciate the recommendations, the revised recommendations. Again, a great discussion with my APC. I will say that there seems to be some lack of clarity between the ALC and the regional districts. This is what I'm hearing anecdotally, that the ALC thinks that we're referring things to them too much, but we don't have the expertise to evaluate agricultural applications. So I think I'm going to try and pin down some folks from the ALC at the upcoming UBCM conference and see if we can have a conversation about that, because I'm interested in whether there's a sort of a gap here that we're not communicating as well as we could. That said, I think these are excellent recommendations. I fully support them, so I'm moving the recommendations on page 36.
Great. Looking for a seconder. That's seconded by Director Lee. Any further discussion? Directors, questions? All good? Call the question. All in favor? And that passes. Oh, it's almost too easy. Okay. Okay, moving on straight to item number 5. Annex D, pages 44 to 45, a very quick report. Reporting on Capital Regional District's decision on Sue Big Oil campaign. I have GM Hall here, who could perhaps introduce very quickly this item.
Thank you, Chair. As noted in the report, staff were asked to report back on this item after doing some research, and the sum of what staff was able to learn is included in the report. Thank you.
Yes, about one quick sentence. This was referred to, we were waiting for the Capital Regional District to come back with some information, and their motion in April 10th, 2024 was that CRD not join the Sue Big Oil campaign initiated by West Coast Environmental Law at this time, but reconsider participation in future if the class action is certified. Director McMahon.
Yes, I'm going to toss a question out to staff that I assume you can't answer at the moment, but if every regional district in BC is asked to sue Big Oil and they all get legal advice, and it's all in camera, none of us can tell each other what we're being told by the same lawyers. So we're paying them 27 times for the same piece of advice. Is there any mechanism by which we can get an opinion for regional districts without going to the same law firm 27 times?
Oh, that's a very good question. And I have Acting CEO Perot here, ready to speak.
Yeah, I know for a fact that not all local governments use the same law firms. So that I think would be something that would have to be discussed perhaps at UBCM through the elected officials. If there's a regional district forum or somewhat, that I think would be the most appropriate venue.
Electoral area. Or, yeah, interesting. That'll be a good discussion, yeah. Great, Director Bax.
Yeah, it's a little disappointing that this legal advice that the Capital Regional District is going to follow. I there's a couple things I'd like to know about the mechanism of certifying a class action lawsuit. If anybody can enlighten me on that. Also, I've been sharing around between the other directors some information about how we've been misled in the last, since I found information that goes back to the late 50s that had Exxon scientists warning about this. And I'd just like to say that I'm really disappointed that the human brain power that could have been put towards the issue was misled all this time. And I know that I'm hoping it's not too late. And if anybody can tell me how long it's going to be before this class action lawsuit is certified, I'd like to know.
Well, I don't think anyone in this room could tell you, or outside the room, actually. So the question that you have would probably be for West Coast environmental law, I would think. So you might want to reach out to them, unless staff has insight that I do not have. Okay. Follow up, Director Bax.
What's preventing us from going ahead and doing and joining this lawsuit anyway?
Well, I guess there's a few components to this. So there's the political component, so us voting to do it. But we need to know, I guess, what it would, like what the mechanism would be, how it would work for us for a regional district, because no other regional district has done it so far as I know. So that might be a question for staff. What are the roadblocks to regional districts joining such a class action lawsuit?
That wasn't really in the scope of what was asked of staff, so we'd have to come back with what that would look like. Because with the regional district model, there's very limited abilities to do this type of thing. For instance, what type of service would that look like? And offhand, I'm not sure we really have, not sure where that would fit, and we'd have to probably get subsequent legal advice about that. So we're not prepared to answer that.
So perhaps, maybe not today, but in the future, a motion for staff to look into that? Would that be necessary? I would, yeah. So not necessarily today, but something to think about. Director McMahon.
Yeah, I'm just going to point out that because Gibsons and Seashell have joined on, we would have to find a service that was only for the rural areas. But if we're going to have to demonstrate the costs, most of the most obvious costs that are accruing to us are in services that are shared with the municipalities, like recreation, water. Water would be number one right there. Or water, again, is a lot of individual services, as well as the Chapman, but there's a bunch of other water services as well. And this complicates our lives considerably. So that's just my comment.
Thank you, Director McMahon. Director Stamford.
Thank you, Chair. Just a reminder that the Islands Trust is also looking at this question, and we do have some overlapping representation jurisdiction that could support the funding. So there might be a different formula to support funding if it's determined that the Islands Trust can or is interested in supporting this.
Thank you for that. If there's no other questions from directors, I would like to ask a kind of a very high-level question. How are we looking? I mean, climate change is costing us already. I mean, with the drought brought on by climate change, it's costing us. Here, the regional district, and there's going to be other, Cliff Gilker Park. There's all these costs. Are we? I guess I have different layers to the question. Are we keeping track of the costs brought on by climate change? Is there a mechanism to do that? And are we seeing higher levels of government stepping up enough to help us shoulder those costs? I'm not sure if staff, maybe that's more of a philosophical question for us. GM Hall, did you want to take a stab at that?
Thank you for the question, Chair, and certainly a big one. There are certain types of climate adaptation or climate disaster response costs that are tracked, and I think to reports such as the one that staff provided last year about emergency operations center activations, many of which were climate related. So there are ways that we do accounting for some types of climate response work, but a complete analysis that would look at things like how our water system is evolving and changes to practices that we're deploying in the field hasn't been undertaken. The number and scope of grants that are available, particularly from the provincial level, seems to be increasing. But I think, like as part of a review of our overall capital and asset management planning work, it would be an interesting question to dig into the adequacy of those as we look forward to bigger system changes. Thanks.
Oh, and Acting CEO Perot?
Yeah, and also the province is increasing their request and accountability for local governments through the LGCAP funding, so the Local Government Climate Action Adaptation Funding, which has increased quite significantly. So we have to submit surveys for that particular information. So that will require local governments to also track things like GHG emissions, even for our contractors. So our requirements are increasing, and so that'll also increase our need for resourcing internally in our ability to track, because it's very detailed, and to what extent is still remain to be seen. But I think governments are looking for data, especially for the type of funding that they're providing. So more to come. And yeah, like GM Hall said, we're doing it in an ad hoc way. It's not that we don't have information, it's that we don't have a defined scope of what we want to track.
That's fair enough. And I just want to follow up. So most of the funding that we are receiving from the province is our grants, correct? That need to be applied to, and it's not necessary. Oh, no, I see a nod of the.
No, the Local Government Climate Adaptation Program, the LGCAP funding, is not, you don't have to apply for it. It's there's a formula, and it increased quite significantly last year, what they're providing local governments. So we just recently, as you may recall, increased the funding for the SAC heat recovery, because that's one of the items in our corporate climate adaptation strategy that will really significantly reduce our GHG emissions. So that's where we're looking, and the BioCover is another project that we're looking to add some funding to. So that is what the funding is used for. There are several other programs, and it depends how you look at this. We have things such as climate resiliency type of funding. So we've had that for the flood mitigation, things for our risk and vulnerability assessment. So we've been successful in receiving grants for that. So there's a multitude of funding. Community Works funding has really, I think, restated the purpose of those fundings through the federal government to emphasize climate adaptation and mitigation. So there's lots of funding, lots of sources of funding, and I see a uptake on how either current funding pots are being branded and rebranded in the sense to please use it for climate adaptation and resiliency and mitigation, as well as new pots of money.
Great, thank you so much for that information. Director Stanford. Oh, is that residual? Okay. Director Bax.
I was wondering if staff has reached out to West Coast Environmental Law themselves about the ability of regional district government to join a class action lawsuit. I wonder if they may have some thinking on that.
Yeah, they were here as part of the delegation that came here last fall, but I don't know if staff followed up with WCEL afterwards. Follow up.
And I wonder if the
Bax.
provincial government has considered joining this action.
I don't think staff would know that. I think that would be a question. Maybe I would recommend that you maybe get in touch with West Coast Environmental Law. Can have some answers for you. Unless staff wants to dive in. Okay, good. And Director McMahon?
Yes, I was just in this afternoon's finance agenda, there's a report on the Canada Community Building Fund, AKA gas tax. And I note that one of the small changes in there is more funding around, is it adaptation? I just can't find it in the agenda right at the moment, but it's around climate. I believe that there will be more details to come, but perhaps our CFO would like to comment on that.
Would you be able to comment on that? Or it's a little outside what we're looking at right now, but I think it kind of gives us an idea what situation we're in financially for climate adaptation and mitigation.
Yeah.
CFO?
Thank you, Chair. I think that the report detailing the new agreement was on the last Committee of the Whole. So today is just an update on the funding. So those minutes are coming to this board agenda. The details related to the specifics is coming to us next week. So staff have been invited to that. But the Community Works Funds, which used to be named the gas tax funding from the federal government through its agreement with UBCM, always envisioned using it for climate mitigation and climate adaptation. That was what it first was positioned for. So for instance, active transportation to reduce. So since 2006, this has always been. I think it's just an emphasis that we're seeing and an expansion of what you can use it for. So.
Great. I have a question, and we've been asking some questions ahead of time. And speaking of like which service this the funding would go into, I think that's one of the big roadblocks that we have right now. And the service needs to be one that is shared only by rural areas, as Director McMahon said. And so rural planning is one of those services. But what I'm hearing is that it does not align with the purpose of the service. And I don't know if the acting CEO wants to maybe expand a little bit on that, just as like what are those restrictions when it comes to the purpose of a service?
In short, we have not done that investigation. So we would probably have to contact, like I said earlier, legal and the ministry about what service this could potentially fit into and whether or not it fits within that specified service purpose. Because regional district services are quite defined to deliver a type of service. So as this is quite generic in scope, and if the SCRD is wanting to limit it just to the rural areas funding it, that too might be a constraint. So that would be something staff would have to come back and investigate and research, and again, get lawyers to probably review the Local Government Act and give us some recommendations back. So.
Thank you, staff. So lots of food for thought. We don't have to, there are no recommendations other than that, the receiving the report, which we've done already. So if there's no other questions, we can go to, I don't even know where my cover page is, so I'm going to borrow yours. Thank you very much. We're going to go to item number 6, Annex E, pages 46 to 48, show the electoral area A APC minutes of June 26, 2024. Directors, any discussion on those minutes? Director Bax.
Yeah, I'm reading over the points of discussion that were included in the minutes, and it paints a pretty sad picture, really, that I see played out throughout a lot of the APCs that we've created, and that there needs to be some more training, some more follow-up with the members of the APC to make sure that they that we can maintain their interest in this. I attended it's been a long time since there was an APC meeting in Roberts Creek, and I attended it this week, and it's a vibrant group of people that are very knowledgeable and interested in, and we had some really great discussions about the recommendations that were brought to us, brought to the APC, and we had some casual conversation afterwards. That I think is. But if you read through these points of discussion, you can see the trend, and I think it's beholden upon us and staff to really make sure that these volunteers are kept interested and kept and given something to chew on every month. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Director Bax. And staff did send a survey to the APCs, which, and the information has been compiled. There was a report recently, and I know that staff is working hard to do just that, what you described. So I think these recommendations from the survey will be implemented, I think, in the fall, GMO.
Thank you, Chair. Staff are analyzing the results from the questionnaire and preparing a follow-up report that'll come to you more than likely this committee. Thanks.
Well, that's fantastic. Yes, that's right, because I saw the survey results in the APC agenda, I believe. Yes, that's where I saw it. Okay, great. Director Lee.
When I read the recommendations, my assumption was that they were being considered as part of that questionnaire. I would like confirmation that that is correct.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so following the questionnaire, staff summarized the results back to APCs and provided that report back at the round of recent meetings. And then staff will be taking not only those results, but also what we heard as a follow-up in these minutes and preparing a report that will come forward. Thank you.
Good, perfect. All right, seeing no further hands, let's move down to item number 7, pages 49 to 51, Electoral Area B Advisory Planning Commission minutes. I just want to commend staff for sending the item, putting the item that the APC wanted to revisit on the agenda for next week. So that was quick. Wonderful. Any questions or comments from directors on the APC minutes for Area B? No? Okay, so then let's move down to, I guess before I do, will the APC requested that a planner be present at their APC meeting? Is that something that's possible this Tuesday? Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. Electoral Area E APC minutes, item number 8. Sorry, Director McMahon. Oh, I didn't see.
No, I was in advance.
It's for, okay. Is yours for Area B or Area E? Area B? Okay, Director Lee.
They had a request for more information for it to be carried forward. Is that request going to be met, or has it been met, or just where are we with this? I forgot, really.
I was thinking that a planner being present would be able to answer those questions, but maybe staff has a further comment on that? Because there are some questions in the minutes.
Thank you. With a staff member in attendance, those questions can be dealt with at the meeting. Thank you.
Good. All right. So, APC minutes for Area E, pages 52 to 56. That's item number 8. Director McMahon.
Thank you. I just wanted to reference recommendation number 5 on page 56. Are dark skies, soil fill removal, and noxious weeds in scope for the OCP review?
GM Hall?
Thank you for the question, through the chair. My general answer would be that an official community plan as a vision statement, vision policy statement, should be responsive to what the community is looking for. And so for very detailed things like some of these aspects, they absolutely can be in the scope if that's what the community wants to bring to the table as part of talking about vision. And staff haven't scoped to the level of these specific things, but as we build that process, very open to hearing from the community. Thank you.
All right. So seeing no further hands, we move down to APC minutes for Electoral Area F. That's item 9, pages 57 and 58. Nope. All good? No hands? Perfect. So we're going to wrap it up with item number 10, Ports Monitors Committee meeting minutes of May 27th, 2024. That's Annex I, pages 59 to 61. Do directors have any? Oh, Director McMahon.
Yes, read the minutes, went back and read the agenda package, and was interested in the staff report on the leases for all the various wharves. I assume that at some point that would come back to one of our committees, just in general about the condition of the wharves. I was very interested in the leases and how long they ran and so forth, and we haven't received that information at any of the other committees, so I wonder if that will be coming forward at some other time.
Jim Gagnon?
Thank you, through the chair. Sorry, I don't have a camera in front of me. So all lease renewals come before committee and board for approval. So ultimately, they're all approved by the board. If the board desires a list of ports and lease expiry dates, I can put that in potentially our Q3 quarterly report for information for the board. Thank you.
Okay, sounds like Director McMahon would welcome that. Okay, no further hands. So we have no communications, no new business, no in-camera agenda. So it is time to adjourn. Could I get a motion to adjourn? Okay, motion, all in favor? Great. So we can take some questions from the gallery now. So is there anyone in the gallery? Oh, please come forward. And make sure you turn on the mic before you speak and you state your name.
Dawn Allen. Do you need to know anything else about me? Height?
Well, tell us which area you're from, just so we can know.
Area E.
Wonderful.
And with the Sioux Big Oil delegation. I just have 2 questions. One is, what happens if there's damage to property that's under the responsibility of the SCRD broadly or the EASC? I'm not sure how that distinction is made, but what if there's damage and you want to pursue somebody in court, you want to sue them for damages? What does the what does this body do to get damages taken care of in that kind of a context?
Okay, I'm gonna have to turn to staff for this one. So if an SCRD asset is impacted or is destroyed, affected by another party, what are the mechanisms available to us to get damages? I guess does that make? I see. No.
That's a very broad question. We'd have to understand what the context is.
Okay, so for example, if a building that's owned by like a community hall or something that's owned by the SCRD is damaged, intentionally, somebody damages it with the intention, maybe they burn it down, or I don't know, they do something to it, it seriously damages it. Is it not the responsibility of the SCRD to pursue that person for the cost of damages? You don't ask the taxpayers to, if you know who did it, you pursue the people who caused the damage, I'm assuming, to get them to pay for that damage. So what's the mechanism for addressing those costs in that situation?
Does that clarify the?
No, not specifically. It's very, so the SCRD, if say something does burn down, I mean, we have property insurance. We have various types of insurance and various coverages. In an emergency, we would activate an EOC, as we've had in the past, and there's mechanisms through that. Yeah.
Great. Awesome. Okay. And sorry, it's a bit, yeah. Question number 2?
Second question is, in light of the fact that Gibson's and Seashelt have both agreed to sign on, and your reference to a lot of the services that are impacted by climate damage overlapping with the electoral areas, then would it make sense, and would it be, and this might be too big a question, but I'm going to ask it anyway, is it possible for us to then approach the larger SCRD and go forward with this campaign as a united front for the entire coast rather than subdividing it the way we have, only because that was the way we knew how to go? Or do we run into the same challenges of legality and funding issues because we are then acting as, and we are asking you to participate as an RD rather than as municipalities? So somehow dissolving and bringing together, dissolving the participation of the municipalities and coming to facilitate the financial part and to come forward with this campaign to the full SCRD and participate as a full community. Is that possible?
Well, I am not the right person to answer that question. I'm not sure if staff has an answer to that. I mean, we have Director Toth here.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to chime in that, the thing with the municipalities is that we can sort of have like a general pool of funds. Taxes come in, expenditures go out. How we divide it up is really up to the municipality. But the regional district is restricted by legislation in that if they collect taxes for street lighting on Joe Road, it's got to be kept in street lighting on Joe Road. That money can't be used for other things. So when we talk about, I think I get where the question's coming from, which is, the municipalities have that flexibility to just take, $11,000 out of a reserve account and commit it to this campaign. But for the regional district to do that, one, you might have to dip into 15 or 20 different services to get a little bit of money out of each one. And the bylaws that establish the services need to also provide permission to use it for legal fees, which when a service is established with the regional district, it's specified very strictly what the money can be used for. I mean, it's similar in that we've had the problems with grant and aid. You know, we've got so many services that we wish we could do different things with the funding that we are bringing in. So that's just a little bit of difference there that I think is helpful.
Yeah, thank you very much, Director Toth, for that input. I think if I understand the question correctly, it was, would it simplify things? Would it make things more feasible if, say, because we're talking, okay, like only rural areas would need to participate in the service. So if we just make it a regional, would it be easier to then take the money out of general government, or like a service that maybe has the purpose that, you know, that would allow us to do that? So
I think it makes more options available for the regional district if it's being contributed from everybody. But I think that's something that staff would have to look at and talk to lawyers about and think, yeah, probably Ministry of Municipal Affairs.
yeah, lots of complexities to that. Director Lee.
There's a little difference in philosophy between a municipality and a regional district in that we actually asked permission to tax our residents for a particular purpose, and we put quite a strict definition on what that purpose is, and we really can't deviate from that. And it's when we establish a service, we also have to get permission from those same residents to establish a service. It's quite expensive and time-consuming to establish a service. So I believe that's staff's thought process when they're talking about this. But if we somehow could find a service that we've already got approval to do this from, that makes it quite a different ballgame. It makes it a lot cheaper. We're not talking a lot of money, and it's entirely possible that establishing a service would be about 3 times the cost of actually funding, which is not a very good investment for our taxpayers. So that's what was going through my mind during this discussion. Thought I would share.
Thank you so much for that, Director Lee. Director McMahon.
Yeah, I had a similar thought. I mean, if we spend more on legal fees to determine whether or not we can charge taxpayers $1 a head for this, it's not much of a win. It's unfortunate about CRD. In retrospect, with hindsight, CRD is very different than we are. Like, it's almost entirely municipalities. They have, I think, only 3 rural areas. It's about 5% or less of their population is in the rural areas. So I can see why they probably didn't want to wade into this. If a larger regional district like Nanaimo or one of the CVRDs wanted to take this on, they have, you know, more population and more resources than we do. Because again, if we spent more in legal fees than we were going to spend on this suit, it would be a poor investment. Thanks.
Thank you, Director McMahon. Director Lee, is this hand residual or? Oh, I have Director Lee and then Director Bax.
There's one more thing that I forgot to mention, and that is that the provincial government has to also approve any service we propose to establish, which is another challenge.
Another layer to the problem, yes. Director Bax, thank you, Director.
I have a question for the Sunshine Coast Sioux Big Oil Group. That if they have a mechanism in place for individual citizens to or a citizens group to join the to donate to this organization, and perhaps as a should you win. To create a fund that could go to mitigating climate change through your local government. If I'm willing to pony up a couple of bucks at least to become part of this group, and if we use the money if we earmark the money to repair some of the climate damage that's been done, some of the damage that's been done to our regional district infrastructure. I wonder if there's, I'm trying to think outside the box. I'm trying to find ways around the regulations that are in place to allow people to, yeah, a grassroots organization that can benefit the entire community should this lawsuit go through and be successful.
Thank you, Director Bax. And well, I'll go to Ms. Allen, who has a lot of information, but my understanding is that West Coast environmental law is trying to get local governments to sign in so that they can have a class action lawsuit. So not necessarily individuals, but like have municipalities and regional districts sign in so that it can go to a class action lawsuit, so that if there is money, if the lawsuit is successful, that the money would go to local governments. But I believe that once the class action lawsuit is certified, which is the goal here, trying to get enough local governments to sign on so that it can go to a judge and be certified as a class action lawsuit. Then after that, they'll be able to do fundraising. So individuals will be able to participate. But Ms. Allen, please enlighten us.
That is correct. Also, in order to have a class action suit that represents regional districts, you have to have regional districts who agree to participate. And so far, that all we have are municipalities. So what may end up happening is that this class action suit goes forward just with municipalities. And then rural areas, rural districts, regional districts wouldn't see money from that class action suit. So that's why it feels so important to us that, such a big part of our population is located, half of our population is located in regional districts. So that's why it felt so important for us to have the regional districts participate. But I understand, I hear everything everybody's saying, and staff, thank you all for weighing in on this and for slogging through it with us. And I'll go back to West Coast environmental law with this information, and we just may move forward with just, the whole provincial effort may just move forward with just municipalities. So we'll be back if it looks like there's something else happening. Thank you very much again.
Thank you so much, Ms. Allen. Okay. Oh, we have more questions. Oh, here we go. Yes, and I just have to remind everybody that we're taking questions, not comments. Right.
Thank you. I'm not sure. Anthony Parry, Area E. Kind of a comment question, I suppose. Maybe I'll turn the comment into a question. Is it the case, do you think, that we can infer from the Capital Regional District's decision that they found out that they could join the class action suit, but they chose not to at this moment? That's in fact exactly what they said. From that, I think we can infer that legally and possibly financially, budgetarily, they determined they could join, but they'd wait. It felt a little bit, to me, opportunistic rather than courageous for them to do that. But I think we can infer that the regional district can join a class action suit. Where I hear the not is in where does the money come from? And do we need to have a new service, or can we find it within the available services that are, the services that exist? So as a citizen and as a member of a delegate to this committee and to the larger Sunshine Coast Regional District, I would implore you to discover the ways in which this could happen. If on principle you believe that it is unfair that the oil companies are making huge profits, as Director Bax pointed out, and contributing a considerable amount to the problem we are facing, if that is on principle considered to be unfair by the board, by all of us, then we need to be able to act on it. And so I would implore this committee and the larger board to look into the ways in which this could happen, to ask staff to use all the creativity at their disposal to discover the ways in which this small amount of money, as Director Lee has pointed out, can be put aside in order for us to make both the symbolic and the practical move towards gaining some kind of repayment from the oil companies. Thank you.
Thank you. I did not hear a question there. But the question, can we infer, okay, yes, it's not a debate. I'm going to take another question. We're just going to try to keep it to, and not go back and forth.
What button do I have to press? Okay. My name's Allison Taylor. I live in Area B. My big concern is that if regional districts aren't represented in this lawsuit, that we might not get any money should it be successful. And in particular, I'm concerned that my taxes would be higher than those in Town of Gibson's or District of Sechelt, because they might be able to offset some of the taxes they charge their residents, because they might get some of this money. And so I'm cognizant of the concern about services. And my question is, when the SCRD pays for insurance for anything, presumably you're doing it to keep our taxes down, to protect us from having like extraordinary expenses. So I am wondering what services, well, two questions. One, what service are those insurance payments charged against? Like, so when you're taking out insurance on things, whatever they might be within the coast, whether they're liability or building or flood damage, what service does that come from? And my second question is there a service that addresses the goal of keeping our taxes, our residential taxes and fees down? Like, presumably that matters. I know you folks spend a lot of time on your budget because you know we don't want our taxes raised. And the time that you're spending to keep our budget manageable is a cost for you. What service pays for that cost for you to deliberate about our, about keeping our budgets low? And you can see where I'm getting with this is, are there services that you already have that you're paying insurance from or that are covering the costs of these EOCs, like when we have the emergencies? Are there services that are covering staff's time to keep the budget costs low that might meaningfully be a place that we could charge, this $33,000 to for this lawsuit?
Thank you for your question. Would our CFO have any insight on that? I do not feel qualified to answer myself.
The premiums are charged to each specific service.
We're learning about the complexities of regional districts today. So every service, so a little bit of every service is for what you're talking about, insurance. And we do not have a service that's expressly for keeping costs down. Everything is spread out in all the services, if that makes sense.
So if we're like we know that one of our big expenses as a community under climate change is water. The goal of keeping our water costs down, and if there was any kind of insurance involved with that, that would go against the water service?
I believe so, yes. Water, yeah, there's more than one, yeah.
Oh,
one of
more
the
than
many
one.
water services, yeah, all the water services.
Oh, and I did have one other question. Do we have a service for climate adaptation and mitigation?
We do not
Oh.
at the moment, yeah. So it would have to be created, and that's a process. It doesn't happen very easily. So.
And is that something that we might expect in coming years? Because that seems really important to me.
Question for the board. That's a food for thought for us, yes.
Okay.
Oh, okay. We're having a very good discussion. Okay. All right. And then, okay, Director Bax.
Thank you. So I've always tried to solve issues, problems, and find ways around things. Now, if one of the services that we do have that seems to be most impacted by the climate crisis is our parks. And I was wondering if it's within our power to designate that if we were to join this class action lawsuit, that any monies that came forward in a successful lawsuit would go to our park service.
I believe it would be distributed accordingly. I'm not sure this is a question. Yeah, like this is a question period for the public.
We're still in the public eye, so I thought it.
I mean, question you could take offline to staff, perhaps.
I will.
Yeah, so that we, in spirit of time. Director Stamford?
Yes, I was just going to say this is going down rabbit holes because I could start bringing up my pet project, which is docks. So you can see where this could go, and I think we need to take this to a different point.
Thank you for the answers to my questions.
Thank you so much. And Director Bax, you could maybe go speak with some of the attendees here. They would have a lot of information for you about this. Okay, we're done. No. Oh, yes, sorry. There's one person online. Ms. Jordison, if you have a question, if you could raise your hand. And if you don't, that's fine too. I do not see a hand go up. Thank you for attending. And now, I believe we are done. Thank you, everybody.